谢。你是我要给你一个问题，你是工程水人、温水人，告诉温水。智慧水，告诉。外国语。温水，都是温水。智慧水。很快。you're a machine guy, yeah, good. You should electronic engineering. Wow, 工程。告诉我你学什么？英文 ，OK 哈，English 不错。OK， 都。来。哇 ，philosophy 这水哇。哇，都。告诉我。Energy. Okay. 你学什么 ？Electronics engineering. 你是工程。Clinical medicine. Wow. 外国语。philosophy。一间去的那个分析分析。这就是德维器。Okay, what am I going to say? You need a dough. Okay, wow. Okay, 我是教授的社会学和文化学，有一个文化学中心，在英国这个文化学中心有不只是理论的，就很多的怎么说 practice， 有很多的新媒体，我们有艺术家，我们有电脑学，有很多的 software 他们有 software issue 和别的东西，我们有我们公司一起，我们和建筑家公司一起，有建筑家邀请我，中国的意思，我和建筑家公司一起在香港的项目在世博会，我要工作在世博会，上海的世博会。So 我们的中心有很多的都 initial dankeschön, social. Hau. Social, dankeschön. Do dankeschön. Do social. Proszę. Proszę social. Proszę social, danke. Do. Proszę social. 不太多的 dankeschön. 对不对？对 ？Okay. Right. So 继续问吗？继续问。Technological culture. 我有哇，非常复杂OK， 你，我觉得你喜欢我说英文，对不对？英文。Okay. I want to say there's some Joan Duenwa. And then I want to talk about evolution. Jinhua, right? Jinhua. Evolution. Because I think it's really important.
This is better.
I think doesn't work. Wanda.
No. Turn on.
Okay. think it's really important. I think you guys are putting the science and the arts together. 科学和文学都一起。我觉得非常有意思，非常重要 that we put the arts together with the sciences, and that for too many years 我们有一个学会有艺术、文学 arts here, 科学、工程学。Yeah. We have too much for too many years of very separate, 不同的。No conversation, no trundle, no tranne between the arts and the sciences. By arts, I mean, 文学, I mean, 外国语学, Genju Shui is interesting in architecture because it's between, isn't it? It's science, Kushui, and Ishu are both together. But I think it's really important that we put all these things together, And I think that engineering, is very important in the arts. Yeah? I think we are starting to have more and more of an engineering principle in the arts. We'll talk about that. I'm not pretty sure. So, what's that? 进化, 系统进化, structure. That's engineering. 结构. It's an engineering 工程 thing. 研究, 电脑学, 和 topo 学. Topo 学? 你知道 topo 学? 是一个 mathematics 的 topo 学. 不是那个文化来. Okay. 3 types of culture. 三种的文化。Don't leave me. This. 三种的文化可以听到？不错。Yeah, 你可以说 the culture as object 文化作为物体。Because if you look at a work of art, it's an object, a wuti, or a kuti, right? Woman should juti, the kuti or wuti, right? And that's one way we can think about culture. Culture is an object, like art, right? An object of art, issue. We can also think about culture as forms of life. Yeah? Oh, thank you. As forms of life. I thought he wasn't a student. Very good. Forms of life. 就是生活form is 生活信息. So culture can be thought of as that. Wenhua can be shown, can be a form of life. Look, you can have a Chinese form, Zhongguo the form of life, right? Zhongguo de Xingxi. You can have a Meiguo de, you can have a Yingguo de Zhongguo de Xingxi, Wuhan, Hubei, Changsha, Zhongguo de Xingxi. We're going to think about culture as a form of life, right? Culture could be an object, like he's an artist, Gongjian. It's an object, art object it could be, but it's also culture could be a form of life. We have 2 different definitions, right, of culture. But I think today, where the society, everything is becoming more and more jishuda, technological, everywhere. Yeah? And technology is, then we have a new kind of culture now, I think. I think we have a new kind of culture with technology coming into culture. Jishu, Wenhua, Ichi. Busha, Jishu, Fan Dui, Wenhua. Busha, Wenhua, Fan Dui, Jishu. Well, it's a long battle, for 200 years. Jishu and Wenhua, science and art always be against each other. Science people, Kushui, Jishu, don't like art people. Art people don't like science people. In England, we try an experiment, and we put artists for 4 years, Ishuja, say laboratory, laboratory. 科学的 laboratory, right? Put them in the lab for a year. 1年2年夫妻年艺术家里边这个 laboratory 的科学家。And then we take 科学家和很多的电脑学的 yeah? And we put them in a 工作室艺术家。艺术家的工作室。Put the scientists in with the artists. We in Britain, in England, say, you know, we try this. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it works. And I think today there's a lot of crossover yeah, between arts yeah, and science. 科学和艺术，文学和技术. There's much more crossover. And I want to argue today that culture is now technological. 我们的文化是一个技术的文化。I want to argue that. 技术文化。How do we understand that? Well, there's a lot of this stuff going on now. 技术文化，我是文化学家。But I think, you know, if you're looking at art, architecture, design, if you're looking at media, there's more and more technology and more science comes into it. Now, what's going on now is that people are speaking about, people want to understand it in terms of evolution. Evolution. 进化. Darwin, right? 进化, Darwin. England. Evolution. You know, we can speak about, we usually speak about 生命的进化, right? Just biological. 生命进化. Of course, 植物进化, 动物, 人类 even, 我们人类进化. In fact, I'll come back to this later, but there's a theory, and not just a theory, but the truth, that the more that we have evolution, the more that our brain melts. Brain melts. Brain is melting. The more that it melts, becomes plastic. 可塑性的脑子的可塑性，动物的脑子不太可塑性。They're very rigid, you know. The further you come up evolutionary scale, yeah, 进化, the more that you have 可塑性的脑子, the more that you become plastic. Plastic, 可塑性, that means 变化. That means change. 可塑性变化. If you're a material scientist, like you guys, you change and you make your material plastic. Not rigid, but different combinations, right? Different molds, almost like an artist in some way, you know, plastic. Not only that, but the more that we are 可塑性,人类, you know, the more that we're plastic, the more that not only do we change the material, but the material. Okay. But the material change us. Okay? Not only do we change the world with 可塑性, if we're changing, but it changes us. If we're open, a woman denounced a woman the 精神 mind 心 heart. 心 is also mind, no? 心 has no 精神 mind, but also mind and heart together, right? The more that we're open, when you speak of, you can speak of in the mind 精神的心，你有一个想象 imagination. 不只是 我有很多的大的哲学的有一个概念的想象力，看着，你们要看着，这个看着黑格看着黑格都很多有这个想法的想象，不只是我们有一个想象力，我们的精神，我们的想象力，我们 in our imagination, I think is what gives us a plastic, kasushi. If we're open, yeah, and we are plastic, we are kasushi, not just make something else plastic, but we ourselves are plastic. Yeah. That happens, I think, through at least evolutionarily, through the outset, through the way that our nervous systems work, but also I think in terms of our jinshan, through the shakshan. And I think we're both, you see, because jinshan and shin, tamashu wenhwa. Outsa, shanun, shikushri. So I think what we're having, we are mind brains, jinshan and outsa. We're culture and biological at the same time. Yeah. 我们是生命的 yes. 文化的 and I think that's how this happens. So but what's going on is evolution jinhua. Now, you can speak not just of Shenming or Naozi or whatever, jinhua. 但是你可以说在我觉得 technological jishu jinhua, technological evolution, which is not Darwin, Charles Darwin, something else, technological evolution. I think you can talk about that. I think we can talk about culture, wenhua, jinhua, but if we look at cultural or technological revolution, we don't look at a shenming. We don't look at animal or shenming. We look at a shito. We look at a system. Shito. And a lot of you guys work with systems, right? In engineering, right? A lot of you work, even in architecture, people work with shito, with systems. And you guys, so I think, and computers, systems are really important. Yeah? And what I think we live in is technological culture evolution. Okay? So we have a technology connected to a culture. All of us have a you have there's an old 3GS. But we're always connected to technologies, right? More and more, today. But the culture and the technology is more and more connected together. So the evolution, jinhua, it's together. Technological culture evolution. Okay? Culture and technology, jinhua together. Right? And I think that's what's happening now in the technological culture. But now I'm going to say a little bit about how I think it happens. How I think we have it. So, okay. So in evolution, jinhua, you always have a shito, right? But a huanji. You have to have an environment, right? Darwin, right? Natural selection. Environment select the shito. Not Charles Darwin, right? Natural selection. That's Shenming, jinhua. Biological evolution. Darwin. But you have a huanjing. You have an environment that does the selecting and decides on who's going to reproduce. But I think what's really interesting is, we like to think that that's the environment out there. Right? Just your huanjing. Not huanjing. Woman should huanjing. Yeah. If you look at nature, if you look at plants, if you look at the environment， 我们是它的环境。我们是 we are the environment for the plant. We are the environment for a rainforest, right? Brazil. We are the environment, human beings are environment for Dongbu, I guess, and they are one for us. But what I'm saying is that it's very complex to talk about, is it right to talk about Huanjing and Shitong? I'm not sure. I think we got to talk about two different Shitong. Ega Shitong, Ega Shitong. Yeah? I think we're talking about co-evolution. Co-evolution? Co-evolution. Who knows what co-evolution? Somebody show co-evolution? 不就是系统 co-evolution 协系统协同系统协同系统 OK 这是协太复杂协同系统协同系统协同系统 So there's a co-evolution I think going on Indeed, of the environment, people. But it's not just we are their environment, but it's a co-evolution. And I don't think it really makes sense anymore to speak about just natural selection from an environment, but how two systems, connect to each other. That's what we need to talk about now, I think. Human, non-human, other kinds of systems. Cultural, technological systems too. So the question is, how do we get Shetong Shitong? 我觉得 Shetong Shitong 这就是我 Shetong Shitong? No, Shetong. Oh yeah, Shetong Jinhua. Shetong Jinhua. Shetong Jinhua. Shetong Jinhua. Shetong Jinhua. Yang Shitong, Shetong Jinhua works through a process of coupling, lianji. Lianga Shitong, lianji. 这个是最重要，我觉得，就是这个连接是 on the level of 结构，不只是这个和这个，但这个和这个 ，structure 结构连接，不只是连接 on the surface 结构。OK， co-evolution 是一个就是结构连接。结构连接 What happens between these systems? Well, something gets passed between these systems. What are these things? Information. There's an exchange of information between the systems. Yeah? The systems, 两个系统有一个传播，一个传媒 between 一件这个系统。But what's the exchange? An exchange of information. 信息 information. Thank you guys. 信息 An exchange of 信息 Okay, it can be a lot of different kinds of information. We can have genetic information. Genetic? I don't know that, guys. That's a different language. Genetic information. You can have kind of data, DNA type information, right? Data. Yeah. You can have many different kinds of information exchange. You can have neural brain and neural impulses exchange. Many different kinds of information can be exchanged between these systems. It can be electrical. It can be, on a subatomic level. You can have many different kinds of levels, right? You guys know this. So what we call this is structural coupling. Jiego Lianji. 这是生命学家他们开始这个概念，有一个两个生命 生命学家，一个他是南美的，他叫 Francisco Varela， 我不是他的名字 Varela。很多的艺术家和社会学家，很多的人他们用他的概念。Okay, so what's going on here? So I think, okay, this is another step. So this is what I think is going on, structural coupling. But how do we, if you think of of anything, I was thinking about a building, architecture, 建筑, but also 电脑, I think. You've got or even art, anything. You've got a form, 形式, right? Which is the external, right? You've got a structure, 结构, and you've got a function, 功能, a function. Okay? Architecture, right? The 功能 is how you use the building. How you use the building. Yeah? The form. 形式 is on the outside, isn't it? In architecture, right? It's the Greek columns. It's the beauty, right, of the architecture. It's the facade, right? Yeah. But it's important because form will also tell you what the building is, not just the beauty in the outside of the building, maybe not what it's for, which is 功能, function, but what it is. Aristotle, the great Jishway. There's a Jishway guy over there. He's a Jishway. Aristotle? Aristotle. No, what you got is Aristotle, he said, he has a very strong idea of form. Like formal cause. For Aristotle, the thingness of the thing is its form, not its use, which is 功能, not 用, which is 功能, and not structure, which is 结构, not structure, something else. Yeah. So I think that in almost every cultural object, whether we're a philosopher, architect, artist, computer scientist, or whatever, you've got form, function, 功能, and 结构, structure. And I think 结构 is becoming more and more important. 结构. Remember we're talking about 结构的engine. The very innerness, the very intensive, the very center of this cultural object, technological object, is structure. 结构. I think it's very important. Indeed, in architecture, it's 承重, right? 结构. So you don't have a structure. 没有结构, right? Structure, and you never see the structure unless you're working on it. If you're an architect, you see the structure, but nobody else sees the structure. Right? So the structure is somehow invisible. The structure is at the very heart of the building. Yeah? And I think the same is true with other things. For example, if we're a 电脑成功 person, like a few of you guys are, what is the form? What is the 形式? 进式 form? 形式 What the 形式? Well, the 形式 is the interface, isn't it? It's the interface of your computer, right? Interface? Where's interface? I had interface up there. Something with mien. No? How would you say interface? Oh, Jieco. Jieco's interface. Jieco. So ko, not mien. Jieco. The interface, sorry. I know you think I'm acting like a bowel. Yeah. But an you never had such a stupid lecture. I know, never mind. The interface is the form. It's what you see, right? It's what you encounter. Like in architecture, you encounter the facade, right, of the building. Yeah. With computing or your mobile phone or your iPad or whatever else, you encounter the interface, the geocode. What's the function? You're looking at the user, aren't you? The gongno. You're looking at Yong, gongno, the computer user. But what's the structure? Well, the structure is the algorithm. Algorithm is Swanfa. Swanfa's algorithm. Yeah, Swanfa. Swan law or something, right? Das Swan the Swan, no? Swanfa. Das Swan the Swan? Something. Okay, so Swanfa. So what I'm saying is and what does a software writer do? He writes, or she writes algorithms. So again, we've got the structure being the most important thing, for this kind of culture, and this new technological culture, and a new technological culture that works through what I would say is kind of structural coupling. Let me just finish with a couple of things, and then you can sorry guys. Oh, you're probably very happy that there's no Chinese words up there that you have to teach me. Okay. So we've got this far with technological culture, but what I'm trying to say is that cultural, even with the domination of the algorithm, the structure, etc., is becoming more topological. Topo shui, probably some of you, one or two, has learned a little bit of topo shui in mathematics. Maybe not, a little bit, a few of you. Well, topo shui is different to topographical. Topographical is like a globe, the surface of a globe, and it doesn't change, unchanging surface of, say, a globe. Topographical. Now, topological topo shui is always changing, always bending. Have you ever seen the kind of topological picture of they give you a donut and a coffee cup, ide cafe, ide donut like that, right? Well, if you transform the donut, see what donut? A donut with a hole in it? You must know. Gongjian, what's a donut? Donut? So what is a donut? Cheer up, eat a donut. Donut? D-O-N-U-T? Everybody's got their city in their... Yeah. But basically the point is that a donut is a which is you eat for a sweet in America, and they will. In the cafe, ichi donut all the time, they always eat, right? The donut, if you twist it, it looks like a coffee cup. You can twist the donut and turn a donut, and it becomes a coffee cup. I haven't got the picture there, but you look online, you can't say Wikipedia, can't say Wiki, you can't go, there's a picture right away of a donut and a coffee cup, and they turn into each other. Because a donut and a coffee cup are topological equivalents. They are the same thing, topologically. In terms of topography or everyday life, they're not the same. There's a donut, there's a coffee cup. But topologically, one can twist into another. Yeah? A circle, a square, a triangle are different topographically, but they can twist. If you twist a square, it can become a circle. Yeah? They're topological equivalents. So topology sees things that are equivalent where normal mathematics wouldn't. And what I'm trying to say is that our culture is more topological, that it twists and it turns and it bends and it deforms. It deforms. I've got some pictures, I know Gongchen will know this very well, of the art of Francis Bacon, and his faces and his issue are always deforming and plasticking out and bending and molding into the surface. It's an art of deforming, yeah? And I'm saying, how did this happen? How did that happen? Sorry guys, 1 second. Slideshow. Yeah, it's things that are deforming. Art and us and culture is in a process of not just form, but deformation. Always mutating, always changing, always bending. In topology, you can't tear it. You can't tear it. You can't break it, but you can twist it. You can twist it. And if when you twist it, you get an equivalent, it's the same equivalent from the donut to the coffee cup, it's a topological equivalent. So what we're talking about is deformation. Now, gosh, if I could tell you one more thing. I think that language and art and and mathematics has changed. It's all changed tremendously. I think it has become what used to be extensive has now become intensive. I was teaching 2 days ago. You guys are Jesuit, but only a couple of you are Jesuit. I was teaching Hegel, a couple days ago. What would y'all Hegel? Hegel. Hegel. Which one? Hegel. There's your Marxism. Hegel. He thought that when you're in classical philosophy, Aristotle, there's two things we have. We have a subject and we have a predicate. Right? A predicate. Okay, grammar, speaking, grammar, right? When you have language, every sentence, every jutsu, dojutsu, you iga jutsu, subject, he iga predicate. Predicate, jishu don. Right. Subject and a predicate. It's the verb and the object and the adjective is the predicate, but the subject is me, right? The predicate says something about the subject. The predicate modifies the subject. The predicate modifies the subject. So my predicate, Scott, Scott, subject, right? My predicate, Maui, Tofa, predicate. Predicate, Watson, Shetson, all are my predicates. No, all my predicates. But all those things tell you about me, but they're not my subject. Now, what Hegel says, okay, what classical philosophy says is that the predicates come from the outside. The predicates come from the outside. The predicates come from the outside, and they classify the subject. Like all these parts of me can come from the outside and tell you who I am or what I am. But it's not me. It's just my jumper or my shoes or my nationality or my color of skin. It's not me. But those are just the predicates coming from the outside. Well, Hegel talked about this. Aristotle says the predicates come from the outside to qualify the subject. They not only qualify the subject, they determine the subject, right? Determine, trading, or duty, duty, trading, duty. So if these predicates are determining me, right, then I'm being determined, trading from the outside, right? Well, Hegel says that what we do is, Hegel is dialectic. The dialectic, he starts with a subject, right? Duty. And the duty empties out his predicates. He exteriorizes, or the duty exteriorizes. They're inside, puts them outside, the predicates, right? Which then determine trading the subject. But then Hegel says we have to have another step to bring them back in, right? For the subject to bring the predicates back in to inside the subject, the duty. And if he can do that, then you can have a self-trading. Yeah? You can have a self-determination. So you're not being trading from the outside. The trading now comes from the inside. Okay? Now, I think that what's going on, if the predicates are inside the subject, we are getting closer to, I think, to an idea of topology, toposhui, where it's not just the predicates, but if the determination is brought back into the subject from the outside, then also value, what is being valued, how it's being valued. Value? 评价. Is also coming from the outside. And the question then is, how do we bring value into the inside? Again, value. So we're wanting to bring many things in the inside. And what topology does in mathematics is it brings measure into the inside from the outside. You're no longer measuring things from the outside. It becomes no longer something brought from the outside, but it's on the inside. Only then can you say that a donut is equivalent to a coffee cup. Yeah? When you have value and measure, and all this is generated on the inside, yeah? Then you have to think of value very, very differently. And I think we're also looking at not just duty, subjects that determine themselves, but also wuti, objects, kuti, that are determining themselves. We're not just thinking about plastic, kusushi, of duty, but kusushi of wuti, yeah? Of wuti, of kuti, of designing plastic objects, right? Material science. Design objects themselves who have kusushi, that they can work differently and be plastic in various ways and adapt to different situations, right? So I think we can imagine this is an art. You know, if it's kusushi, then form is always changing. It's always deforming, maybe reform, yeah? And then mixing and connecting structural coupling, the engine, yeah, with other systems, with other shuto. Sometimes these things, putting information into each other. As they feed information into each other, you have a negantropic moment where the level of energy gets higher and higher, and it's kind of self-organization. It's not always, though, good, though. Think about relationships. Sometimes they fall apart, right? Nupangyo, nampangyo. You can structure, you can lianjie, but you can also lihun, whatever. They fall apart. Sometimes coupling decouples. Yeah, you can have lianjie. I don't know what decouple is. Lianjie is couple decouple. Yeah, because decoupling happens. You don't just have an increase of energy, negative, but you can have an entropic system that's losing energy. You can have one of these systems that dies, that's dying and losing energy. Okay, there might be then another rebirth of energy, but there can be a heavy loss of energy. And for me, this energy is not just kunung, physical energy? Kunung. What's physical energy? Nung what? Kunung. It's kunung. It's energy, right? Kunung. Energy. Nung, shema. Something with a nung in. Nung yang. Nung yuan. Energy. Nung yuan. It's not just physical nung yuan or energy, it's also jinsha energy. It's also spiritual. It's also qi at the same time. So it's a combination of nung yuan and qi, I think, when we're talking about a technological culture, because that's what's putting the qi and the nung yuan together. Yeah, the culture, the Wenhua side, and the physical, shenming side together. So, shenming, shenming, not just physical would be physics as well as shenming. Okay. So basically, this is what I think I mean, or what we might be living in, or maybe we hope we will be able to live in, a technological culture. Yeah. One with structural coupling, one with co-evolution, not just guqi hua, but some kind of guanqi hua, whatever you want to call it, something that doesn't just work on an individual level, but works on a level of community, of networks, wanguo, but wanguo not just of people, but also objects, kuti, also uti, yeah, that are designed by people as plastic and changing, that will couple, with users. But you guys are designing the structure. I mean, whether you're a computer scientist or an architect. So I think I'm being too optimistic about all this. Let's all stop and see if you guys have any questions. Thank you very much. Thank you.可以说中文，可以说英文。可以说中文，他翻译。You can ask anything when we're go.不是水，你可以到建筑、治水、到电脑、到不只是水位办法。好，谢谢。
Thank you, Professor. Your speech was fantastic, which enlightened me about molecular sociology.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So your speech reminds me of a new form of technological culture, which is network. So recently there was a very contentious topic in the world concerning the relationship between social network and civil society.
Yeah.
So it's about an organization called the Invisible Children. Which aim to prevent a massacre from kidnapping children in North Uganda. It's a big news.
Yeah.
So this thing is a little different from the past when the world was manipulated by wealthy and powerful people. So in this area of the internet,
Hope so.
I want to ask that, do you think that can network or civil society make a difference or reshape the situation of international relationship?
That's a good question.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that, and I can say that in England, we have 和在美国有一个政治 political sort of movement， 它叫 Occupy， 你怎么说 Occupy？ Occupy Wall Street， 和以后 Occupy London。And I think that your question is, can a network change the world, partly? And civil society, yeah, I think that's an interesting question. I think a network can build civil society. 它可以建 civil society 社会，什么说什么人民社会，市民社会，不是人民社会，市民社会，不是人民社会，市民社会。Okay,社会的是。Okay. Yeah, I think what's going on, it's very interesting, is what's going on is a very, this kind of network gives a very different kind of politics of junction, yeah, which I think can build a civil society. And this kind of junction, Occupy movement, they never have any demand. So demand. They never say, I demand this, or you've got to release the prisoner, or you have to give me money, or you have to give me equality, or you have to give a Chongqing motion, or you have to give this or that or anything. They never say anything like that. They have no demands at all. Can you imagine that? A politics without any demand? They don't even ask for anything. How does it work? Well, it works through the network, through the one world. What they're doing is they're creating a form of life, a 生活的信息, form of life. They're creating a form of life. They're creating a civil society, a 生活的信息, which is a civil society. And this is what they created, and they occupy, and they live it. They're really, these guys are really, 他们是无政府主义 anarchist 无政府主义 what 什么说共产 anarchist 无政府主义的 anarchist 无政府主义所以他们是无政府主义的 and they because they don't that's why I think they don't have a means to an end. It's not, I'm going to do this to get that. Because they're not trying to get that. They're just going to say, I'm doing this. And we're going to build this, what we're doing. And they do it through technology. 有电脑学的，有电脑科学的，他们工作一起。They have a whole mapping,历史、地理、geography, 地理学。A geographical mapping using GPS and other kind of technology where they can broadcast to every single one of them what zones are safe, what zones the police have cordoned off, what zones they can do things in, etc., etc. So there's a big use of technology of DNA and Wadro inside this to create this, and not just, it works, of course, the BlackBerry instant messaging and everything, so that everybody knows what's going on all the time. So I think there's a network, kind of technology that allows this building and occupy of really a civil society, a form of life. That's one that is one that that goes against Wall Street. It goes against the Totsu Yinhan. Now they don't go to Totsu Yinhan guys and say, I'm going to kill you or something. or I'm going to have a revolution, or Wanwa Dagaming against the Totsuyina. No, they don't say that. They just occupy. And they talk, they discuss, yeah? But they don't say we have to do this or we have to do that. They just occupy. Very effective. Very effective. No leaders. Everybody just does it. Some people have expertise in Yanachue or something that could program and make and get the technology down, and they give it to people. Some people I know, they quit their job. Yeah, they were making good money in a gongse. You guys, they quit their job and they spent all their time programming and designing technology for Occupy. So I think that you have to have I think you have to be willing to contribute, don't you? You can't just say, oh, Juchiwa, I'm going to be individualist and just for me. You have to be open, again. And I think that's the way Shangshangli work. Imagination. In philosophy, where you have a Shangshangli, right? But you also have a cognition, right? Cognition. And a cognition often works actively. And a Shangshangli, it works, first you have to be passive. First you have to take in. You have to let it hit you, Then of course you can be productive and you can make something happen, like art or technology or occupy. So I think that's a very good question. I think it does, Wang Luo does play a role in creating a civil society. I think it can do it. I don't know about Uganda, but in London, England, where where Chutas are, so what could you make that kind of stuff? Architect, I must have a question. Genju, you must have a question. In England, not as good as China. I think we don't have. I think that China has much more ambition in its architecture. Obviously, I mean, we have a problem in England. Woman you eventi. Woman eventi tajao Prince Charles. Prince Charles. This lady died Jiangfu. This William Harry the Baba. Charles, Prince Charles. Charles Wanguo. Charles Nuwan. Charles Wanguo. Charles Prince is what? Wangar? He's a problem. He always interferes. Prince Charles. He always tells, oh, you got to have this architecture, or you can't do that. You can't do that. I think in China you have much better. You can do anything here. There's so much architecture. Well, you can't do anything. But okay, I'm exaggerating. But there's been so much crazy building and wonderful building in China. I know there's been a lot of problems. I think also that China is a country that believes in investing in infrastructure. Jiego. Infrastructure? Which is Jiego? Below Jiego. Jiago. Which is Jiego? And I think that and I think that in that sort of sense there's a mentality of building at least for a long time. I don't know. I mean, I know that there's been some crazy building in China. Gongjian Tajida was Ramkolas the Pengyu CCTV, Beijing CCTV. 建筑家的方式，他说方式，我们有一个两个项目一起我要工作在他的香港项目but I know you get some, but the thing is, you've got that, and you've got so many other ones. These are buildings. I know that some people think, oh my God, they're horrible, but at least you've got the nerve to do it. Or maybe not you, but whoever's the government. Somebody's got the nerve to do it. And nobody's stopping them from doing it. Whereas in the UK, you could never do a building like that. They would never, not just that, but also, also in the other Beijing buildings, the Shanghai Pudong, everywhere. What's happening in Xi'an, what's happening everywhere, Wuhan. You can't do, you're not allowed to do these buildings in the UK. You cannot get the support. So I think there's a real problem, and we don't invest enough in infrastructure. And we have again, to answer, going back to sociology, we also have a problem where in the UK where I know you have it here too, but where there's such, maybe not so much in Wuhan. I know that Beijing and Shanghai have a much greater inequality of shogu. I think Wuhan, Chongqing a little bit more equal, but Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, very unequal, I think. But London's even worse, even London. And I think it caused a big problem. We have you might have seen it, it's a Jianqi, Ling, Ling, Yao Yang, Shaqian. We have a riot, riots? Riot? Yeah, in London, did you see on television? They must show it on television. And they were burning, the building and going into the stores and everything, in London. And even near my neighborhood, they were burning, And, but then why were they burning, Ask why. It's not just because they wanted some Nikes, or something, or steel. I don't think it was just that. It was because they're pushed out, excluded from the Shihui, They're pushed out. They have nothing to gain and nothing to win. By Feiji Wuxi, Meo Gongzuo, Meo Shui, these guys from those areas, So, but I think even there you have, even there it's really funny. And I think, of course, I'm not saying it was a good thing, but these people have no chance in life, What are they going to do? And they use a BlackBerry messaging technology. And also it's not completely different. No leaders, They occupy spaces, they just set it on fire, but they occupy it. And I'm not saying it's good, but I'm saying that we have a real problem in London with that, and in England. So that we've got to, hopefully we'll be able to do something. Or maybe some of these young people will make things change, in London. I hope. What do you think of architecture in China? Yeah. 你说，等会儿，对。Yeah, I mean, I don't know, are you guys going to have a big dichia in, your dichia在武汉? 多少线? 2个3个? And there'll be more and more, yeah. I don't know, it's a hard question, I know there's a crazy buildings, but there's also a huge investment in the dichia, Hototsu. It's a huge investment, right? In the dichia here, Shanghai dichia is massive. It's incredible. It costs billions and billions and billions of dollars. But I don't know. I mean, I think that I think there is too much investment in infrastructure. There is too much. We maybe not enough. You have too much. And I think there needs to be a rebalancing of the Zhongguo Jingji towards consumption, really. I know last year there was an increase in consumption, but consumption. I think there's, the Chinese economy is rich enough to have a much higher level of shofei. And if that level of shofei happened, then we would have a rebalancing of the world economy. Because at the moment, China always export, to everybody, and not import enough. Import some, but there's got to be a balance. There's got to be a balance, which would then raise, the standard of living. I mean, I think it's fun. In some ways, of course, the standard of living is not that bad. I mean, people have the size of the funks is good. I know that in Shanghai, people moved out to the from the center of Shanghai to the outside because they had to, because the government, not national government, but Shanghai Shanghai, they clear out the middle. But then they build a diqie, and they can come, and they have a much bigger funks. Yeah, 70, 80平方米, 不是25平方米, 在胡同弄堂. So there's a lot of good things, but I think there has to be a higher level of consumption. And this will be a major thing for the world economy. It'll help. Because at the moment, too many countries are running huge deficits. I know that the government needed junk food. They don't. And they want to do it, but they're not doing it fast enough. But hopefully it will happen. I think, hopefully.
The development of Chinese technology to some extent depend largely on the politics in China. I think in China the technology and culture they do cross over, but sometimes we can see that the politics environment affect the development of technology.
Of technology.
The direction.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I know this is a really tough. So what do you think?
That's what I think. Good question. Yeah, I mean, I think they do. I think it does. I suppose consumers also, you also affect the development of technology. I mean, I know everybody complains about how much China Mobile charge too much. No, okay. They make you pay too much and they don't give you good enough service. Very good. And everybody spent so much money on this, right? Yeah. I think that's true, and I think that China Mobile probably needs either more competition or more regulation, so that they don't, so they don't do this. So that they don't. So I think that the development of, of course, because of course the demand is there for the technological development. But when a company like China Mobile has so much power and can charge you, because there's what, 3 other shoji gongsu? The China Mobile, and then, but there's an effective coming together almost and saying, okay, look, we're going to charge you these prices. We're going to move ahead very, very slowly, and we're going to make money, basically, and you guys are going to pay. And I think that is really a problem. Yeah? And that how do you open that up? Well, you either open up competition or you regulate. The government has to say, okay, China Mobile, you can't do this. You cannot control the fees. And I think that it does. Yeah, if a company is charging big fees, and has almost a monopoly, then that does slow down technological development. What can the government do? I don't know. I mean, I think It's hard to say. I mean, on the one hand, the government has invested hugely in. I think because I'm not Chinese. What's your joke about? I think I see it too good here. I always think it's good. I always think it's bad in England. You know, the English boo-ha, you don't go how. I always think because I come from the outside. I mean, one thing that's impressive here, is how much investment there is in the universities and in the technological universities. There's a lot of investment in engineering universities in China. Not only the top level, like you guys MIT, UCL, Imperial sort of level, but at the very lower level. How many engineering colleges are there in China? Probably 1,000, everywhere. Really small little ones that you never heard of. That produce not, you guys with a PhD or a Bush or a very high level of topology, but the kind of average engineer that, and I think that is terrific. That is something that feeds this very high level of education, feeds very positively into the economy. Does it feed into innovation is the question you're asking, isn't it? How much innovation is there? Is there a culture of innovation? Well, there's a culture of innovation in art. We know this. There's a culture of innovation in architecture. I mean, you might think that, but some Chinese architecture world leaders now. The Pengyo Maching in California, Sangha Sig, many Chinese architects and folks are real innovators. They're too much for innovation. So the question is, can it happen on the level of technology? It's not easy. I mean, I think that that it's, is there a Chinese Steve Jobs? Is there a Chinese Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook? Is there Facebook? I don't know. We don't, but in England we have a very hard time of. We have wonderful discoveries, and copyright from Imperial College and the great universities, but they never put it into practice. They might discover something, but it's often not put into practice. So I don't know. I mean, I think that perhaps the government, perhaps copyright has to be protected more. Not too much, because I'm free software, of course. Maybe there has to be more free software around. Maybe maybe the kind of open software movement, and open software, and open source is the place to go. Yeah, maybe that's the direction that things have to move into to get more kind of technological innovation. Because we love Steve Jobs, but he put the heavy copyright on everything, and then what can you do? He doesn't give us any kind of access to the inside of what's going on in this. So I think maybe something along the lines of more like open source or open software might be a way to go. But it's a problem here and also technically. It's a problem. One more question? Okay. Works. Well, China is developing a lot of cultural studies now. Sorry, excuse me. Well, one thing, I run a Center for Cultural Studies. 我是导演，也是主办一个文化学中心。我们有7、8、9个教授和130学生，学生都是博士硕士。学生，I'm the only. I was the first one. I started it. 我开始这个中心12年以前，23年以前，98年。And then it grows and it got bigger and bigger. 发展 and we never have another sociologist. I like sociology. 我是社会学家 but I think the important thing is to have a mix. You know, 社会学家 and the next person we got was a 大众说是在非洲 Africa 非洲和他就是说 post-colonial studies. And then we got the next person was doing Shinmeti 学家，他是一点就是Shinmeti学家是一点哲学家，但是他知道电脑学和哲学一起。以后有we had an issue job, very famous issue job. That's Graham Harwood. 他的 issue Tate Modern 买他的 issue. 还有 Centre Pompidou 买 so this issue job joined us. And then we had somebody that 一个女人 and she was a media philosopher, Métis Jishwe. So we have all sorts inside, and a lot of practice, and a lot of interest in Genju Shui and Chengshi city planning. So I think sociology does come in there, in a very big sense of sociology. And I think that there's a very important connection with social questions and cultural studies. And Wenhua Shui. In China, there's a lot of Wenhua Shui now. It's Tafajan. 在上海大学、华东师范大学有王少明，有一个文化学中心，which is really good. And 我给大家说这儿，明年。And there's the people at people like Zhou Xian. 他给大家说明天，他是文化理论人，在南京大学。But you have something like Wenhua Shui. I think that and so there's others. I think also Wang Hui, Tsinghua Dashi de Wang Hui, 他的同学 Wang Minan in Beijing Waiguoyu Dashi. I think and then there's the art schools, that are good. 中国美术学院 Hangzhou, they do Shinmeti issue, but it's almost like cultural studies for me. I know you don't think so, Gongjian, but I think for me, when we have an artist like Graham Harwood and others, for me that's also cultural study. It's a practice. You're making something. You're not just analyzing something. You're thinking, and your thought is making. That's why I like doing ask the Jishweven there that 在Hegel 和 Schelling 他们有一个想法的一个概念的 productive is production 生产我会说生的生产的想象力 the productive imagination 生产的想象力 and the 生产的想象力 produces things, it makes things, it works through thought. And I think cultural studies is not just about cognition, but also about the imagination. It's about writing essays and novels, 小说 and other things. 我们的有一个中国电影不是说的电影导演，他叫郭少禄，他写小说的。他写小说有4个5个他的电影，你可以download 和买 DVD。有一个 China Girl 姑娘，中国的姑娘， 毕业的很多的他就是37岁，他就在 London， 他是中国人，他是职场的and 他是一点老师在我们的中学，他可以讲说 it's not even lectures, it's consortia, it's workshops. 什么说 master classes? How do you say master class? Master class? You know, when you teach an art, you show your stuff, and you the teacher goes around to the different tables where people are making things. Like in architecture, you have master class. Did you you have a master class. Oh shit. Master class? Shit. Maybe. I think that kind of teaching is what you need, where you've got maybe 4 or 5 tables where students have projects, maybe theories, but also projects. They're building something, they're designing something, they're doing some art, they're writing some software, they're doing some media. Yeah, we have a course in creating social media, 社会媒体. 不只是学社会媒体, but you create, 你做社会媒体. You write the code, you put together, you make an application, like APP, an app, for your social. So it's a creating social course. So that people, a situation in which students, there's maybe 4 students here, 4 there, working together. So maybe one table, you have somebody that's a coder that writes software, right? Issue, young issue, a all together at the table. So if one person doesn't know what they're doing, the software person can say, okay, do it like this. Okay? Or the philosopher can say, well, maybe this is the idea. To the software guy or the designer, well, this might be the idea that you're thinking of. So the teacher doesn't have to do all the teaching. The student teach each other. They have different expertise, and they work together on a project. Let's design a city, or let's design an application, or let's put together an installation, or something like that. And you have people with different expertise that each one gives the other help. But then the teacher, who's a master class, comes around and talks to each individual table. So we're trying to do that kind of teaching. It's a bit more like an art school, yeah, like a Genji Shui study, the way that we do Wenhua Shui. So it's very important. Always have whenever we can have a result that's not just a Lilun, not just a theory, but that's good too, of course. We love Lilun, we love theory. But also where there's a practice result, yeah? Where there's something that actually comes from it. So I think that's the kind of culture studies, that we want to do. It's hard to do. We can do it at Goldsmiths because we come from an art background. Those issue tables. The big thing at Goldsmiths is issue and meiti, always. Yeah. So there's so much practice already there, shiji, that it feeds into our kind of cultural studies. So I think it would work in China if you can get the practice, create the media, create the art, write the software together with a Lilu and the Jishua all together. I think that's the secret. If you can do it. Yeah, of course, it's cross-discipline. It's cross-discipline. I like to call it indiscipline, no discipline. Where it's a little bit where people. We used to say everybody said they were a cross-disciplinary center. We say we are indisciplinary, no discipline. But okay, there is, and I think it's, and again, it's people. We have a lot of people coming from practice that already were working in design or art or media or computing or architecture, that kind of stuff. And I think that for me is the way to go. maybe one more question. That's all. One more. Two more, then we finish. Okay. Finish it. Knowledge. What kind of thing? The girl was saying, that why am I translating you to Chinese? That technology addiction. Do you ever show addiction? Addiction? There's a lot of dependency and addiction on technology today. And what can we do about that? Wow. Good question. What do you think? Yeah, it's very hard to do. I mean, but sometimes technology destroys culture, you're saying. Or a lot of culture is lost through technology. Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I mean, how many people are always online, are always communicating, are always downloading, are always connecting with their friends or Baidu or whatever, that people are connecting on, and or Skype, who knows. It's a hard question, and surely what you are destroying, face-to-face communication, because you're not saying you're always, communicating at a distance. You're, why have a cafe, if you're online all the time with your phone, why are you, people are just turning in on themselves. People are. A lot of culture, you're right, forms of life are being destroyed. Are being destroyed, you're right. So what do you do? Well, it's a very hard question. I don't think you can force people to not use technology, and obviously you're not saying that. I think you can set up alternatives, maybe. You can encourage other kinds of spaces, other kinds of forms of life, other kinds of civil society, of things, of spaces to connect to, and physical ones, and you can have more art spaces, more cinema spaces, more. Maybe, I mean, it's not impossible, and I think that I think you need a positive solution and not a negative solution. And the positive solution, I think, is the construction of these kind of spaces of other kinds of activities and other kind of culture where forms of life can actually grow, and and people can work on these kind of things. And it's much different. I mean, if you're just connecting online, is way different than working in a project network, where somebody says, okay, well, let's do this bit of urban planning, or let's put together this show, this exhibition, or this series of things, which you actually meet with people and plan them and create, the culture. So I think that that's the kind of thing that really has to be encouraged. And how to do it? Well, more money should be spent, less money should be spent on building crazy buildings, and maybe on infrastructure, and more should be spent on kind of developing these kind of local kind of local kind of initiatives by local government, university. One last thing, boy, lad in the back.
When
英国人，中国人，英国人。Yeah, yeah.
I saw him. He walks in the hand.
Yeah.
So is it true? Is it real?
Is it real? He was the guy that lived in a box above the Thames River. He lived for like 3 months. 就是间 in a box above the Thames River. I mean, I think the guy is completely crazy. But some of his things are real. Yeah, I don't know how he does it. I think it's London that I don't think it's his imagination. I think he's completely mad, personally. And but tell me next time when you hear about this, and I'll go see it for sure when I'm in London. And you must come and visit, and some of you must really think about, if you think about applying for our program in Goldsmiths, because I think because people with like some of you guys with the technology and other kinds of sociology, all the kind of backgrounds you have is you're a very interdisciplinary group, and it's the kind of thing we would love to have for some time at Goldsmiths. So please come to our place and get your application in sometime in the next couple of years and spend a year in London. Anyway, thank you very much.